Welcome to Offset, Larry and the Big Man, two-time Stanley Cup champion. That's Jay Caufield. I'm Larry Richert from the Big K Morning Show on KDKA, and Dave Ricchini is our master Nostradamus of the numbers. And you can't not be a producer. That's part of who you are.
It's in my DNA.
It is in your DNA. We want to thank One Team Media, Brian Hess and his team, Ryan Jorgen, who's producing this episode, and from Odyssey Pittsburgh, Michael Spacciapoli.
Yeah, and also the Rourke Automotive Group, Dave Rourke, a title sponsor with us, as well as Tom Grillish and Henderson Brothers. Thank you very much, guys, for being a part of it.
What a weekend. Saved in Pittsburgh only by the Pens win in Philadelphia. That said, it was a challenge. Let's dial back to the Bills game. A lot of people had high hopes, considering the Bills had not played their best game against Houston the week before, allowed 8 sacks. Steelers didn't get any. I think I know what the turning point is going to be for you guys. I'm going to guess it came after the halftime and the Frisbee dogs.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, certainly the play that put them on the scoreboard and gave Buffalo life was that. But I also would go with when Josh Allen got hit just a wee bit late, right? He's giving himself up. And I think that kind of sparked them a little bit too. So, but if you go by the game and what's going on, it certainly has to be the play coming right out of the half. And that was a tough one.
It's almost hard to believe when you look back at the final numbers and realize that Steelers led this game at halftime. Like, you look at the final score, so they were, I mean.
You held the Bills to 3 points in the first half with Josh Allen.
Yeah.
That was a win. And you get the ball first to start the second half, and you're like, okay, see if they get out, at least get a field goal. And in the first play, you get a strip, sack, scoop, score, touchdown. Then on the next drive, they get the ball right back.
Yeah.
Rudolph has to come in because Aaron Rodgers' nose is bloody, and he throws a pick 3 plays later. They score again, and you're in minutes. You're like, what happened?
Yeah, I think Buffalo was shooting themselves in the foot early because they were driving down. Then we saw the pick, and then we saw the fumble by Jones. And, again, that was the game as you just summed it up. I want to just go clarify one thing. I can't blame a linebacker for chasing down a quarterback and when he slides right before. I find it the most irritating thing as a guy. And I was a linebacker in football, so you're running and a guy has the ability to slide. I get why you're in the moment. You want to just finish somebody off. But the way the rules are called, that was a big thing, right? That became a big thing. So, and maybe I'll get to that. That might be part of a blitz thing that I might have. I might have it.
Big man blitz.
That could be part of
early.
I know it's an early tip, but I will say
as hard as Drake May last time, or Jackson Dart. Excuse me.
The same linebacker. I think the same linebacker then hit.
And knocked off his decal. Ooh.
Yeah. It was a big. So, Larry, it's your thing. I mean, look, I think even when I look at this game and the turning point certainly was what we just talked. I mean, it is that. But when you look at that game and going, Houston destroyed their offensive line when they were healthier. We had no. I mean, obviously it became a quicker game, and they looked at what went wrong for Buffalo. But to not get anywhere near with backup tackles in the game and things like that, that's what's the fan base is really sour about. To me, that was a big part of it.
And they controlled the ball.
Yep.
They ate up almost the entire fourth quarter, Buffalo, and it got progressively more frustrating to watch that second half, to the point where I think it got to a place it had never been before at Acrisure Stadium.
Yeah.
Given up, a record number of rushing yards at Acrisure, and the most since 1975 against, ironically, the Buffalo Bills. They had a running back, you may recall his name, O.J. Simpson.
Was he wearing gloves that night?
I don't know if it was that cold, big man. But that said, okay, frustration builds. Back to what you both called Buffalo in our predictions from last week. Jay, you said 27-20. You were close on the Bills' end.
Yeah.
And Dave, you said 24-14. I picked the Steelers. And
well, I get it though. I get your pick because you're thinking you're just thinking that there's
The
got to be
opportunity
rebound
was
games.
ripe.
It's been hard to figure out all year long. And I will say, if there's never, I don't understand the lack of. We say it even in the hockey world. There's times you have to adjust. There's adjustments made in every sport that you play, right? If a golf game's not going well, maybe you have a fade. Dave has a draw, or maybe you have a fade on a given day. You have to go with that. You have to play with that and maybe adjust. In hockey, there's always adjustments in between periods. If you need to get in there and settle it down, I can't understand why. I don't understand it. I think great coaches are made by great coordinators, right? There's certain coaches that deserve are over and above, but your coordinators are what really dictate what's going on. Look in KC, Andy Reid, who's their defensive coordinator, Spagnuolo, and they rave about him. To me, I am shocked that a team that's built the way they are and the money they put into the defense, that they can't shut something down or get one or the other. I mean, one leads the other. If you let it get running game, now you're in trouble because they got to come up. I understand that. Just to me, I'm shocked that there's not a look of adjustments. I'm not in the locker room. We're not in the locker room. Same in the hockey world. We're not in the locker room when I'm doing what I'm doing. But you can tell when something's adjusted, or at least looks like it. It doesn't look like that's happening at all.
Tony Romo said during the game they ran 2 plays, and TJ Watt echoed those sentiments after the game. They ran 2 plays. It was, and James Cook just kept bouncing it outside, taking on the defensive backs one-on-one.
And of those 2 plays, and I don't know if this is accurate, they ran 74 plays, Buffalo. 29 of them were the same play.
That's
crazy.
I mean,
You talk about adjustments.
Yeah.
Why aren't adjustments being made in the moment? I've not seen post-game Mike Tomlin in that.
Yeah, I know.
You could tell he was rattled by this whole thing because there aren't any answers in that moment. Like, what happened? And you've got all these highly paid defensive players.
Yeah.
They bought, on paper, still the most expensive defense. Why isn't it working?
Yeah.
TJ Watt, $41 million. Where's the results?
Yep.
DK Metcalf on offense, $30 million. Where are the results?
I was going to say, let's not let the offense off the hook either.
We're not. We're not. But
Rodgers,
but you know what, though? Attitude is built. And I'm agreeing with that. I agree with you. But the attitude that when you come into Acrisure Stadium, that there's an attitude that goes with it. And the fan base is letting you know it, because when they played Renegade and the way the fan reacted to that, they're like, really? You're going to play that now? Like, kind of thing? Because you can't blame them. And I think the players have truly, they've had enough of it. You can tell where they're at.
What will be interesting,
so I agree with you, Dave, though,
is to see how they respond on the road against the Ravens.
Yes.
In spite of everything, Jay, as a professional athlete, you kind of got to put that, all the chatter from outside out, and play your game. You can't quit. And if they win the game, they're in sole possession of first place after all this acrimony.
Yeah, I agree. Now this is about then coaching too, right? Like, what's your game plan? What's the game plan going to be on the defensive side of the ball? What's it on the offense side? How are guys not getting open, not using the middle of the fields we've talked about for years? I mean, the one thing that Tony Romo pointed out is good having a quarterback call a game, whether you like him or not. But a quarterback sees different things and looks at it from his perspective. When Rodgers got sacked, he played it again. He goes, "There's nothing open. There's nothing there."
And a receiver ran the wrong route.
It's amazing what one play would have done. How different it would have looked like if Aaron Rodgers, they complete that down the middle, and Smith, as we're hearing, he should have cut in, not out. What would it, all of a sudden? How's everybody talking about Rodgers or the system and whatever? It's kind of amazing to me, and that brought up a whole nother thing too, like the press conference talking about, bad week of practice, guys not in film session. Yeah, that's kind of wild. That's really
it's rare to be called out like that.
It's an offense that has its shortcomings already, and then you're limited to the shotgun and pistol formation for the quarterback, so it takes away some of the play action elements. That's tough. I mean, it's not an offense that's going to stretch the field anyways.
And that said, they could beat Baltimore. Baltimore struggled too.
They've been battling.
They lost to the Bengals, who are now surging. Who knows?
Well, I know.
All right.
I agree.
We're going to talk to 93.7 The Fan's Andrew Fillipponi in just a few minutes. But first, is there a Yinzer dog, the original Yinzer dog player of the week? Do we have one?
Wow. I'm not sure anybody really. I did have a couple out there. I did pick a couple guys, but I'm not really sure anybody really deserves it. But Peyton Wilson had 14, tackles. Part of 14.
He had
14. I know. It's getting past the first layer. No, I'm agreeing. That's what I'm saying.
I would have 10 tackles in that game.
So he's one guy. And Gainwell, someone that played the pick, putting him in position to score. I'm going to say no. Nobody deserves a injured dog this week. No.
I'm going to go off the map. Isaac Seumalo.
Who?
The guard, Isaac Seumalo. Highest rated guard, PFF. Again, they only allowed 1 sack, and it came on the edge. So I'll give it to, I want to go one of the guards. The running game's been good this year. He probably would like some of the injured dog.
You know what? I'm just going to go with that too, just because I didn't even think of it.
Because what's in the Yinzer dog?
Because Seumalo's going to get an original Yinzer dog pack with Stanley P. Kachowski, Kabasi, Babushka, Mama Pierogies, and Yinzer Halushki to be delivered.
By the way, if you're over 300 pounds, it's worthy of two packages. Okay, if he's over,
did we decide
what's his weight?
Darnell Washington, was he over?
He was over. Yeah,
okay.
He was over.
Not listen.
Can you get his?
I better write that down because I'm going to forget.
Well, that's an easy one. But I think it doesn't have to be a double tailgate package. It could be just few extra kielbasi or something.
I want him to say,
when you're over 300 pounds, you deserve a few extra.
304.
See,
I want him to say, what the hell is this, and is this all I get?
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about around the National Football League. There are other games that you just go, what happened there, too? And trending down, Philadelphia.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I talked to Dave the other day, and we were kind of laughing about it. But I'm saying, let me see. If A.J. Brown has more than 7 catches, did the Eagles win or did they lose? Like, I wonder what that stat would be. Because
is that a parlay bet?
It should be, because when he doesn't have a kid, they're winning. But then he's complaining. So then they try and force him the ball or get him the ball, and everything else. Saquon Barkley doesn't get enough carries. All this kind of stuff. So, but they are trending down. There's something. They're dysfunctional right now, but they've won and they've played big, and maybe they just want to get themselves into the hunt, is what I believe. They just want to get to the dance, and then when they can, they think they can turn it on. So, I don't know, that's tough for me. Philly. I had first of all, I had Green Bay and the Cowboys. The Cowboys for me right now. The deal that they made with Green Bay sending Parsons over there, what Dallas got back, shored up their defensive line, right? It's been huge for them. Then we see what Pickens. Now you see a quarterback who's distributing the ball, and they've been really, as we all know here in Pittsburgh, they've been really good, because Dave gave us a stat prior to last week's Thanksgiving Day game with Pickens' numbers, the yards that he has.
He probably overtook the receivers.
It's pretty amazing but they're off to a good run. Green Bay looked pretty good. The Bears, to your point, Larry, they ran all over the Eagles in Philly because Caleb Williams, I think, only threw just over 150 yards. Their running game was dynamic against the Eagles. So that's on the NFC side.
What stuck out to me was the unpredictable nature of the NFL. I mean, we've been saying all along, okay, the Rams are the class of the NFC. They go and lose at Carolina. We had 7 underdogs win outright this past weekend. Yeah. 7 underdogs. And there were like some big point spreads, 7 points, 10 points, whatever it might be. I agree with you. I think, the Bears and the Cowboys are most impressive. I'll go on the AFC side, the Texans.
Yeah.
Now they won 4 straight. Jags, Titans, Bills, and Colts. They're 7-5. They're still on the outside looking in. They get C.J. Stroud back. Now, it's going to take him some time to get back in the flow. He didn't have a great start to the season either. And that's the thing with the Texans. They keep saying if that offense can start to click, they're dangerous, because they still have, Seattle's up there too, but might have one of the best defenses in the entire NFL.
And how about the Patriots?
Yeah, I know.
They have the best record now, and the Steelers beat them.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of wild, right? It's kind of wild how that is. Man, they got a quarterback. I think the Vrabel hire obviously is turning out to be one of the best things that they have done to bring back somebody from their glory years and what it means and how they're performing. But having a quarterback that's in full control of the offense and a leader. So, and then they all play accordingly. I think everybody, look, I look at that too, and I feel the same way about all the teams that are out there, the unpredictability, who's going to get in. I think the New England, though, they looked, obviously last night, against the Giants, which the Giants have had a tougher schedule than what New England's look like, right? So they thought they'd at least cover. Maybe that field goal attempt.
Oh, my gosh. That guy stubbed his toe, I think.
Wow.
I've never
seen that
at any level.
Yeah, I've never seen that.
So
Did he
mentioned before in the London game about the ball that hit the wire and how it shouldn't go against it.
Yeah.
Do you think he did that because he knew he was going to miss it? And he went. And this is a guy that's been bounced around the league now after he'd been caught by the Falcons. Did he not want to have a miss on his record?
Well, I don't think he would want to do it.
The ball was rolling.
Did he say? Did he say
the ball was rolling?
So he
you
stopped
look at the
his
whole.
motion.
Yeah, but you still got. I mean,
Yeah, I didn't really. Yeah, I didn't see that part. I was looking to see if he slid a little bit. Yeah. I mean, sure, but yeah, I mean, look, I think the league. Let's go with just unpredictability. I mean, you don't know what's going to happen. You're not even sure every week if you're a bettor, if you're betting games, if you had no line, if you looked at the 16 games and there's no number to it, just pick the winner. The last couple of weeks has been really difficult, right? It's been tough.
not for me. I won the weekly pick.
You won. See, Dave won the weekly pick. I was kind of leading that, Dave. You don't have to. I was going to, acknowledge you here. But yeah, we do a weekly pick'em thing where it's a great thing to play. You pick the games, no line, just pick the winner, and then it runs all year long. Through the regular season, it's a great thing to do. But if you went through this week, it was a tough week. Hard to determine what's going to happen.
And the Steelers still could be in first place by the end of Sunday, and they've found ways to win in Baltimore over the years, even when Baltimore was really trending up. So who knows? And creeping in are the Bengals with Burrows.
Didn't they have was it not, did I not hear, did they not have the same record as they did last year?
Yeah, and then they ripped off like the last 5 in a row and came like a half game short of making the playoffs.
Yeah.
But with the Steelers and the Ravens both at 6-6, mathematically, it's not out of the question.
Bengals still play the Ravens again, too.
Right.
When you went to that Ravens game last week, they had some wacky things happen to him on that night. Like the guy I don't understand the reaching for. I understand trying to do anything he can to get a touchdown, but Isaiah Likely was stretching for the end zone when he didn't. I don't know why you make yourself vulnerable with the ball. I don't know. I don't understand. I'm not sure why you do that. When it's not like it was the last play of the game, there's time on the clock. They have plenty of time to do what they were going to do. And but that was one way. So they really shot themselves in the foot too. So we'll see. But you said, Larry, go back to it. Steelers have a chance to.
I mean, if you're an optimist.
We're all optimists here.
So you're saying there's a chance.
There's a chance. That's right.
All right.
There's a chance.
Dave Burkini, Jay Caufield. Let's check in with Andrew Fillipponi from 93.7 The Fan, part of the afternoon team with Chris Mahler. They call them the PM team. Andrew, where do we start?
Let's start with, I just heard Tomlin talk, and he said that he agreed in general with the fire Tomlin chants he heard Sunday afternoon, which is obviously something that was completely new at Acrisure Stadium. I mean, we've heard fans boo before. We've never heard fans go after the coach like that. They've talked about firing coordinators and cheering for backup quarterbacks and things like that. But that was something we had never seen or heard before. And Tomlin's take today was he understood it and in general he agreed with it, which I think is a little bizarre. Why would you say I agree with fans who are telling me that I should no longer coach this football team? If he agreed with them, well, then why is he still here? Why did he not offer up a resignation or something today? So that was bizarre, and that's kind of where my brain is right now as we sit down and chat because it happened 5 minutes ago there.
Wow.
Yeah. Andrew, we'll go right to the game now. We'll talk about the game. When I look at that, you think as a fan or somebody else watching it, covering the game like you're going into that game against a banged-up Buffalo team, right? A team that gave up 8 sacks to Houston. Now you have minus 2 other tackles, a center playing basically with one bad arm. You're thinking that this is ripe for to right yourself, if you will, and certainly none of that happened at all.
Not at all, and they played much better at home, and they had shut down Jonathan Taylor, who's been the best running back in the NFL this year in Pittsburgh. So that's what's so baffling about the way that the Bills went about having such a productive day offensively. They did one thing. They ran the ball with James Cook and their backup running backs over and over again. For the most part, these were outside runs that forced corners and defensive backs to make plays. And it didn't really feel like the Steelers, if there were personnel adjustments, they didn't work. If it was whatever it was, I'm sure if I went back and looked at the tape, they didn't defend those runs the same time every play. That would be idiotic. Whatever they were doing didn't work, and the changes they made in game didn't work. It's just really for this defense to have the high expectations they had at the beginning of the year, to allow for this sort of thing to happen continuously this year. Teams identify one thing and then they don't veer away from it, and there's no counterpunch from the Steelers, whether it's Jamar Chase and all the catches he had in that Thursday night game, whether it's Jordan Love and the Packers completing 20 balls in a row because he's just getting it and throwing it out short passes into the flat to running backs and tight ends. This has been an ongoing negative theme to the Steelers season, where offenses latch on to something that works and they don't have to go away from it because the Steelers have no way of stopping it.
Yeah, it's like an old saying, as long as it's working, you stop us. And I understand they ran the same play. I think I heard 29 times, that running play that was, gave up, a record number of rushing yards at Acrisure and more than in a regular season game for half a century, going back to the Buffalo Bills under OJ, we mentioned earlier. So what was the takeaway from the gathering when addressing these issues with the coach?
Well, his big thing today seemed to be that he thought they played an acceptable 30 minutes of football and thought the second half of the game was where, really they lost the game. And look, there's no doubt it was one of the worst second halves of football we've ever seen in Pittsburgh. From the very first play where Rodgers was strip sacked, almost broken in half by Joey Bosa, and Benford picked up the ball and scored a touchdown. So that was a harbinger of just awful, terrible things to come. But I would definitely debate him on them playing a, quote, acceptable first half of football. Yes, they held the Bills to 3 points. That's a win. They had a red zone stop that ended in a field goal. They forced 2 turnovers. So I would look at what my team did defensively and say, sure, they had a winning half of football. The offense didn't. The offense scored a touchdown off a short field. I give them credit off of that second fumble first fumble by Cook. He fumbled twice on one play. I give them credit for then punching it in the end zone and coming away with 6 and not 3. But they didn't do anything else in the first half. We still have not seen wide receivers make an impact. No wide receiver other than Metcalf caught the ball. There's no downfield passing still. So I disagree with him on that. If he thinks that that's their standard, we're scoring 7 points and a half is, quote, acceptable football, well, then they've really watered down what they expect out of their offense on a week in and week out basis, where one touchdown off a turnover is considered a job well done by the head coach.
When we hear after the game, you hear Aaron Rodgers talk, and I think what was really, pretty pointed, but that you make the comment, you don't have a good week of practice. The comment that guys, in a roundabout way, not being a film session, which is all that stuff is just wild to me that guys wouldn't be attending. And obviously we know the one where you could tell where Aaron Rodgers was throwing that ball up the middle, Andrew, when Smith broke to the right, he was throwing it into the middle. If that's, I find it amazing that guys aren't all on the bus, if you will, and then be on the same page. That's your job. That's what you do. That's what film session's about. That blew my mind a little bit the other day.
Yeah, and I don't think the Steelers are a huge fan of. I know they probably knew what they were getting when they signed Aaron Rodgers. You have to take the good, the bad, the ugly. One thing he will do after a lousy performance is tell his own truth. Now, that might differ from how Mike Tomlin feels or how defensive leaders feel, whatever. If he thinks one of the reasons why they may have lost a game is because guys' practice habits aren't good enough and that guys aren't doing the things before the game, like studying film to put themselves in the best position to win, he's not just going to do that behind closed doors. He's going to air these guys out. And I think some of it is a little bit self-serving to get himself off the hook. But I also think it's probably needed right now because there does seem to be on many different levels and for years a little bit of a lack of accountability when it comes to some of these things. I mean, how many Steelers players, like take Pickens, for example, guys that had to get run off and jettisoned because the belief was, well, these guys are bad locker room presences or they're unprofessional. So I do like that he called them out, but it's really a bad look for the entire organization where a 21-year-old vet feels like 21-year vet in the NFL feels like he has to say these things in order to try to evoke change and get guys to do things differently. So I thought that was insult to injury. Not only did you lose a game, get embarrassed, have all the things that happened with the fans at the game, but here's the guy who has won before, who's a 4-time MVP, who's, spending 1 year here, who's now questioning a lot of the things that get done before games in order to try to win games.
And that said, you are what your record says you are. So 6-6, so are the Baltimore Ravens looking ahead to the weekend. If they win, they're back in sole possession of first place in the AFC North, crazy as that is, with Cincinnati coming on behind them. So how do you evaluate what you see in Baltimore? Because they tripped up on Thanksgiving night, so here we are.
Yeah, I mean, if you were ever going to pick a year to be mediocre or average in your division, this is it. Because, in the past, we've talked about how this division had so many good teams. The Ravens and Steelers annually duking it out for first place, and then the runner-up would still get in the playoffs and have to be a wild card. And then when the Bengals, since they've gotten Joe Burrow, they've become a threat, having gone to multiple AFC championship games and a Super Bowl. And this year, it's the opposite. There's not a team in the division with a positive point differential. Everybody's in the red. Everybody's had more points scored on them than the other way, and it's not a fluke. I mean, the Ravens and Steelers both have names. They both have guys that have won to varying degrees before. But this year, for a lot of different reasons, neither team has been able to put it together. And, it's interesting. The Ravens now, I think their rationalization for being 6-6 is, well, our quarterback isn't healthy. He's gunning it out. He's playing. But the reason why we're not as explosive offensively and we're not a contender is because our quarterback is at like 50%. My opinion is the Steelers do not have that excuse. The Steelers are 6-6 by their own doing. They wanted Aaron Rodgers in the offseason. They wanted to make all these splashy trades and free agent signings. This is the bed they've made. The Ravens, I think, could potentially write this season off and say, well, it was a bad luck year because our quarterback missed time. The Steelers can't do that. The Steelers, I think, are going to be forced to do more soul searching in the offseason than maybe the Ravens.
Andrew, too, we've just watched Cook, the way the Buffalo running game is and what he brings to the table. And then we go to Derrick Henry, which is a completely different, style, if you will. And if you look at it, how are you going to – we've talked about adjustments. We've talked about this in our shows during the week, about how our teams going to adjust. What are we going to do? You get a guy that's going to run up the middle and pound it. And I'm sure he's antsy to kind of put out a performance that he hasn't had this year. He and both Saquon Barkley's numbers are way down. I expect he's trying to think he's going to have the best game he can have, and how are we going to – what are we going to pick your poison? What are you going to defend? Henry or Lamar Jackson, who looked like he was moving around not too bad the other day. But to me, if they don't get their running game going, they're a mediocre team, as you just mentioned. They don't have anything going for them either. It's kind of wild for me.
Well, I think the best thing the Steelers have going for them in this game is that sometimes the Ravens offensively either forget about Derrick Henry or go away from Derrick Henry. And that's what you got to keep your fingers crossed for in this game, that maybe you stop him early and they lose patience and their game plan changes. When the Steelers beat the Ravens in Pittsburgh last year, Henry fumbled on the first play of the game. And I felt like that really affected their mentality from that point on. They came back and ended up tying the game, or putting themselves in position to tie the game, I should say. And there was a 2-point conversion play at the end of the game, and Henry wasn't even on the field. So that now the playoff game is a totally different story. I mean, they ran for 299 yards, and they could have put 12 defenders on the field for every play, and they wouldn't have been able to stop Derrick Henry. So that's really, I think, what you got to hope for. But at the same time, Jay, this run defense has been inconsistent. I won't say it's been bad because they've had games like Jonathan Taylor. Chicago was the best running team in the NFC, and they held them under 100 yards 2 weeks ago in that loss. So we've seen it. It's just we don't see it week to week. And maybe given the nature of the Steelers this year, being 6-6, being up and down, maybe this is the week actually the run defense bounces back and plays well.
Andrew, you always seem to make connections all over the country. And in this case, speaking of the Ravens and their quarterback, Lamar Jackson, what was the reaction and what did you post that got him to respond?
Well, this is not the first time he's done this with me, by the way. So all I did during that Thanksgiving night game, I thought by my standards, it was a pretty innocuous comment. I didn't really think it was going to warrant the quarterback coming off a poor game reaching out to me. But all I said was, is it time? Can we at least say right now, the football community, that Lamar Jackson is a little overrated? That's it. That's all I said. I didn't say he stunk. I didn't say he's awful. I didn't say he's never going to win a Super Bowl or anything like that. I just said, can we at least come to a consensus that the guy's a little overrated? And he didn't appreciate that question, apparently. The reason why I think that that's should be a universal opinion is he's won 2 MVPs. Great. Go look up his numbers. They suffer every year in the playoffs outside of one game, which was against the Steelers last year. And as we're clearly seeing right now, what differentiates him in a good way and a bad way from some of these other quarterbacks like Joe Burrow, for example, is that when he's not a dangerous runner and he has to play more from the pocket and be a traditional quarterback, I'm not saying he's awful, but he's not great. And he was missing throws downfield left and right in that Ravens loss to the Bengals. It's just not his strength. And long term, I do wonder when his athleticism starts to erode a little bit and slip, what kind of quarterback he's going to be in his 30s, because I don't think he's going to be someone who surgically just dissects you from the pocket. And apparently he didn't like me even throwing that out there, which if I'm Lamar Jackson and my team's 6-6 right now, the last thing I care about is what some guy in Pittsburgh has to say about my legacy or career to this point. So I actually like that he's doing this because it tells me right now that maybe there's some insecurity on Lamar Jackson's part, and maybe his focus is not on the things he needs to care about as we go into this game this Sunday.
We love that, Andrew. It's great.
All right, before you go, I know you got to get rolling. Just real quick, big disappointment for Pitt. Had they beat Miami, which was a tall order, they'd be in the ACC championship game this weekend. But who do you think's out of the playoffs? Is it Miami, even though they beat Notre Dame? Is it Notre Dame? Who's out?
Well, I think Miami and Texas are going to get left out. I think both of those teams, if they were put into the playoff, could actually win it. I think Miami, as I told you guys last week, is by far the best team on paper in the ACC. No one close. They've got, in my opinion, at least 5 or 6 guys who are first-round NFL talents and a quarterback that's making tons of money, who hasn't really played up to his potential this year, but is still pretty good. And Texas has Arch Manning, and look at their payroll. I mean, they're like the Dodgers of college football. They've got guys making millions of dollars there too, and we saw them beat Texas A&M, who was previously undefeated on Black Friday night. So I think they get left out because Texas has 3 losses and Miami has 2. See, the issue for Miami versus Notre Dame is even though Miami has the head-to-head win, Notre Dame's 2 losses are to Texas A&M and Miami. Miami's 2 losses are to Louisville and SMU. And that's going to be the difference here, is that they're going to reward not only Notre Dame because the brand, but they're going to reward having no bad losses over having a big head-to-head win. I don't agree with that, but I think that's what the committee will do because that's what the committee has shown us in the rankings every week so far. So I think those 2 teams get left out. The only monkey wrench in it, and I don't even agree with this, but I think it is possible. If Georgia blows out Alabama in the SEC championship game, that'll be a 3rd loss for Alabama. They'll be 10-3. And I think that would at least create the possibility of them taking one of those other teams. I don't think a team should get penalized for losing a conference championship game. I think if you were in before the conference championship game, you should stay in. But who knows? I mean, this is subjective. We don't know what their agendas are. And I think some of those things are on the table. The doomsday scenario for the ACC is if Duke beats Virginia. And then I think the potential exists that the ACC ends up with no teams in the college football playoffs, guys.
We thank Andrew Fillipponi from 93.7 The Fan, part of the PM team. That said, join us our next episode with Pierre McGuire. He's got some great insights as always, and want to thank One Team Media with Brian Hess, Ryan Jurgen producing this episode, and from Odyssey Pittsburgh, my employer, Michael Spacciapoli.
Yeah, and the Rourke Automotive Group, Dave Rourke, part of our team here, if you will, and with lifetime state inspections, oil changes, engine warranties. Dave, we appreciate it. And also Tom Grealish with Henderson Brothers for being a title sponsor along with Dave, and thank you very much for being a part of it.
Yeah, we thank Tom Grealish. Also, you mentioned Henderson Brothers. Experience the power of partnership with HendersonBrothers.com. Well, big man, big weekend.
It's a big weekend.
All right.
It's a big one.
That's
Can't
Offset, Larry and the Big Man, and that's a wrap.